This video touches on subject matters which some viewers may find upsetting. While I've never officially stated this in my videos, you can tell from the content that I make, such as my artwork and those cheesy music videos I used to make, that I am a massive fan of Melanie C. Best known to the general public as the sporty member of the hit 90s girl band the Spice Girls. While this is where I was introduced to Mel and got to know her as a performer, I'm mostly a fan of her pretty successful post-group solo career, which has spanned almost 2 decades. And I really recommend, if you're not familiar with her stuff outside of the Spice Girls, to really give it a listen, particularly albums like The Sea and her most recent album, the self-titled Melanie C. Not only that, outside of her career, she is also a feminist icon, one of the strongest LGBTQIA supporters I've ever seen, and in general just a really nice, wonderful person. While I'm not really someone who reads that many autobiographies, when it was announced that Mel C was going to be releasing her own, I just had to pick up a copy, which is what we're going to be discussing today. Since this is my first instance of doing a non-fiction style review, it's going to be a little difficult as I try and figure out the best way to structure this. I was incredibly lucky to actually attend one of the many stops on Mel C's book tour, where not only did I get my copy, but I had the opportunity to actually meet her and get my book signed. And let me tell you, in person and within the book itself, you can tell just how much of a down-to-earth, lovable person she is, and it was such a great opportunity to actually meet and interact with her, as she discusses the incident that inspired her to take up writing this book, where she is questioned about getting back to normal following the very awkward events in 2020, and she realised that she's never really had much of a normal life and wanted to discuss it. Like most autobiographies, the book details not only her childhood experiences and personal life, but also the career highlights she's had, diving into iconic moments in her time as a performer, and discussing stuff like her relationships, and it's generally just a really fun read. I'm also thinking of picking up the audiobook version that Mel narrates. Having her perspective on certain public incidents, it's interesting and amusing to see how downplayed certain elements of their career actually were, like the hilariously anticlimactic conclusion to the apparent rivalry between her and Noel Gallagher. One of my favourite editions of the book is the glossary at the end, where she translates a lot of the Liverpudlian terminology, which she uses pretty much regularly, so it's sort of like a second language to her, but to general and international audiences, they may not be aware of it, so it's just a nice little fun detail, and just shows how much she dedicates herself and is very true to who she is when writing. However, there are also some pretty serious areas that she goes into, such as her experiences with physical and mental trauma, and how a lot of the parts of her career really impacted her health. It is a bit of a tough read in those parts, I must stress, but much like the glossary, she was at least aware of the seriousness of the stuff that she was talking about, and so included a list of support lines, not only for mental health, but also for LGBTQIA. I can't confirm whether or not that was her decision or just something that was asked to be put in as a necessity due to the seriousness of the subject matter, but I appreciate it's there nonetheless. So while these areas of discussion might be really difficult to read, I think it will be helpful for those going through similar experiences to check out this book, even if you aren't necessarily a Mel C fan, as it's good to have a second-hand look at someone's experience with physical and emotional trauma. Like, for me personally, I can relate to a lot of the emotional and physical trauma that Mel has gone through. Not to the same extent and under a different context, but I can definitely say that I've had struggles with my mental health and physical health, and in fact Mel C is probably one of the main figures that helped me get out of the period that I've mentioned before, my very miserable phase. And I think being able to see just how relatable her experiences were, it really put a new spotlight on the aid she gave me, even if she wasn't aware of it. Like, one regret I have in terms of the getting to meet Mel C was not actually having the opportunity to vocalize my gratitude to her and how she played a major part in helping me come to terms with my anxiety and my depression. To say this book is an emotional roller coaster is a bit of an understatement. Some absolutely hilarious moments and some incredibly sad and traumatic moments. Who I Am is available from most bookstores or stuff like Amazon, so if you're able to get it if you can, I've linked in the description to buy a copy. Thank you for watching. If you like the content that I make, please support the channel by hitting subscribe and turning on notifications so you can stay up to date with all the content I release. Like, comment your thoughts on Who I Am, and you can find and follow me on social media at the links here, and I'll see you next time.